Good morning, y'all. This is Tracy, and I'm putting this video on both Anarchy Land and Scratch Kitchen because I have been working hard. For the last couple of weeks, I've been looking, and I've noticed there are parallels of the food shortage that people see in the 30s that we see today. Now, during the Depression, there was a lot of food shortages, okay? Now let's go back to our spring a year ago. The weather was terrible. I mean, it was horrendous. There were floods, there was snow. It's just completely insane. If I didn't know any better, I'd say there was an agenda behind it. Moving on. Then in the fall, when the farmers finally did get their crops out, a lot of them had issues, like rice farmers had problems with their plants, processing plants in Northern California, or NorCal. The plants were being told that the electric issues they were having was because of the risk of wildfire. Well, whatever, right? But the harvest was not that great. Now, they had sufficient assistance, farm hands, last year, unlike this year. But it wasn't that great last year. Now, this year, we have this COVID-19 that has depleted farm hands. How is that going to affect our harvest? There won't be one. No farm hands to do work, no food. That's just a simple fact. The second problem we're seeing today is shortage of money. And that was a problem then in the 30s as well. Which meant there was more supply than there was people to buy it. Over the last week, we hit 10 million people unemployed. The peak of the Great Depression was 32 million. I estimate we will probably meet or beat that by April 30th. And that's not a goal, a record I want to beat, okay? I'd rather not, you know? But what we're being told is because of this virus that they're doing this. This virus, as they say, is nothing more than something that was bioengineered by our government. Not China, but our government. History will reflect that fact. Why is it important? Before the Depression, the economy was engineered to fail. The failure started on March 29th and came to fruition in October of 1929. The market showed signs in that spring of having cracks and having problems. And of all people, Paul M. Warburg was the one who warned them that they were overpricing things, they were overrating things. For someone like him to say that, you would think it would be taken serious, but it wasn't. By October of 29, the cracks were showing. I mean, they were really showing. Now, we're seeing the same thing happen here. We're being told it's because of this virus, this bioengineered virus. Well, here's the thing. The economy is not based on markets. Markets are... You got your markets, then you got your economy. It's based on the GDP, your gross domestic product. Where right off the bat, we're in trouble because we don't make stuff anymore. Not like they did in the 50s up to the 90s. When NAFTA went in place, everything went to hell in a handbasket. My late father worked in the factory 13 years after he was unemployed for 2 or 3 years because hiring Vietnam vets was not a popular thing and they didn't want want to do it. The factory he worked at made motors for washers, dryers, dishwashers, and all these things for Whirlpool, Maytag, all them. We don't do that anymore. We barely make cars. Hey, it's unbelievable. Now, back when it started becoming apparent that this virus was going to come here, and it actually already was here, it got released last summer, the so-called vaping illness. The three big car companies, Chrysler, Daimler, or Dodge, Ford, and GMC, started reaching out to ventilator companies saying, what do we need to do to make more? There was no executive order needed. There wasn't. Trump did it because he could do it. But this isn't about him. Now, during World War II, factories did the same thing then. They're doing now. They're making what's needed because it's what's needed now. What was needed then was cars and vehicles for the military. What's needed now is the ventilators. Just give me just a second. I gotta go let the cat out. Alright. Back to where I was. The three big car companies are doing it again. They are making what we need to be made. Plus, it's keeping people working. That's nothing. Now, let's look at market. Think of a market. Think of a company like pizza, okay? The more of that pizza you own, the closer to the whole you have, right? So if you have 16 slices, which is a general pizza, you have a whole pizza. Well, when you own, the more shares or stocks of a company you own, the more votes you get. So if you own, say, 20 million shares, you get 20 million votes. Alright? Now, when you own that level, you are pretty much insulated from loss. Why? How? Insider trading, which means you get inside information that is key to making money and the difference between losing money. Now, recently, senators, back in December, were taken to a closed caucus meeting of both supposed sides, which are non-existent. And I don't know what they were told. There's not many of them that are talking about it, but whatever they were told, a lot of these senators, congresspeople, sold off the majority of what was going to become a useless product that they own shares of companies for. And they bought in to PPE companies, personal protection equipment companies, masks, all these gloves, all this stuff. Now, by all intents and purposes, they should be brought up for charges of insider trading, because they took advantage of it. Which means they're taking advantage of the American people. They're going to make money. We're going to lose money. Now, this is also what happened back in 1929. There was people on the top that knew that the market was going to go under. There was going to be a crash and a reset. So they dumped all of their stocks on the cheap. I mean, they dumped them on the cheap and they bought them for even less. Bought them back for even less money. Which means they profited twice off of them. So, by October 29th, they'd gotten rid of all the other garbage shares and stocks that were going to crash. The companies that were going to go under. Is this legal? Unfortunately, it doesn't matter. Now, how did most Americans lose everything? Buying on margin. Basically, you have a stock, you want to buy a $100 share. You only have $20 to pay. You go to a brokerage, you pay $20 down, they put in the other $70. When you make money, when the stock makes money, the firm gets their $70 back plus a fee, and then you get what's left. Nice little scam. Wrong. When the bottom fell out, October 29, these firms lost a lot of money. Some of them even closed. Because they didn't have the right connections. They didn't have the people on the inside of these big companies like GE, GMC, all these companies, to tell them, okay, this is what's going to happen. You need to sell these off. You need to get out of this. No, they didn't have someone like that. So the people like you and me, they lost everything. Homes, jobs, families. Now the suicide rate, I've learned over the last few years, was overblown. It was high. There was people that did take their lives because they were in their 50s, they were pretty much settled, they were betting on this to be their retirement. So yeah, they lost their asses pretty bad. And they were the ones mainly that off themselves. The ones that opted to. The other ones were the people that had been wealthy all their lives. They didn't know anything else. They had no idea what it meant to be poor. And they didn't want to know. They didn't have the courage to face that. So that's that with them. Now, once people had lost everything, there was no buying food because, hello, no money. This is where the capitalism brought the bread lines and the soup kitchens. Now, also, I have to say, the Communist and Socialist parties of America were the only ones in the street demanding the government intervene with jobs, food, housing, but jobs were first. Now, for those of you who think socialists just want things to be handed to them free, put your money where your mouth is. Because here's what I'm telling you. During the USSR, it was illegal not to work. Under a socialist country, you have to work. And to lay people off is illegal in the country of Germany. Personally, I think it's a brilliant move. But hey, that's just me, right? Anyway. Let me get out of this other thing. I got so much stuff popping up here. It's unbelievable. Even to this day, Germany, our closest socialist ally, it is illegal to lay people off. Check out Democracy at Work. Dr. Richard Wolff talks about that. Now, what the Socialist and Communist parties of America tried to push for, was guaranteed full-time employment, a living wage. Imagine that. So these two parties know, they understood. Humans are meant to work. It's ingrained element of our psyche. Now let's look at the effect it took on agriculture. Then agriculture dried up. They had the Dust Bowls. There wasn't anybody buying their products. They had more product than they had demand for. Because the people who wanted it and needed it didn't have the money to buy it. So the co-ops would pay them, compensate the loss for them dumping it. Well, that was stupid then. It's stupid now. I don't care. A lot of people would go to these farmers and say, hey, You got a fence that needs to be fixed. I know how to fix it in exchange for an evening's meal. The person would fix the fence. The farmer would give them food instead of a pay, because the food was better. Now, here's the deal. I see this happening here again. I do suspect it will happen again. The Bible makes it clear, a man who doesn't work doesn't eat. In other words, get out there and plant food. That's not very hard. This is going to be a very hard and humbling experience for some people. They are literally going to have to work on farms in exchange for a roof over your family's head, food on plates. Oh, wait a minute. We already got people doing that here. Yeah. Immigrant workers. Yeah. We are going to be down to their level. I say down to a level because people look down on these immigrant workers. Now that they're not being allowed in, guess what? It's going to be up to us to go out on these farms, to help plant stuff, to help weed, to help remove pesticides, because apparently we can't get the stuff from China to create the pesticides and herbicides needed. There you go. During World War II, many women were sent now this mainly happened in England. Many women were sent to the countryside because a lot of the English men had to go join the military, in some cases go back. And a lot of them, when World War II was over, they had gotten so connected with the land that they wound up buying farms themselves and living that way for the rest of their lives. They could not comprehend going back to the other way they'd been living. Now, let's go to another issue we are seeing of the whole situation here that is parallel to the situation of World War II. During World War II, there was such an anti-German and anti-Japanese propaganda. It got to the point where people of these origins were not allowed to speak their native language in public. I mean, hey, it was bad enough they were going in public. At least the Germans looked enough like the Americans that they could pass, as long as they didn't speak, because then that accent would come out. Now, what have we been seeing lately? A lot of anti-Chinese, anti-Russian, anti-Venezuelan, anti-Cuban, anti-Iran, and anti-Syria. All this propaganda has replaced the anti-German and anti-Japanese propaganda. It got to a point where the Japanese were rounded up for their safety, of course, in what we would call FEMA camps. Now this is happening again. This manufactured illness that was manufactured by our government is being blamed on China. Have no doubt. I'm not saying there's not a virus, because there is. I have no doubt. I'm very aware of what this government is capable of. But we're focusing in so much on this virus, on this consequences, food rationing, jobs lost, homes lost, bills stacking up. And it was Chinese virus, as Trump kept saying. This kind of thing was done also during World War II. Very similar attitude. What pulled America out? Think about this. We're going to get a $1,200, some of us are going to get a $1,200 little bitty stipend. You're going to have bills this big that's going to exceed it in just the first 5. Well, what are you supposed to do about these other ones? What do you do? What do you do? When your $1,200 has caught your rent up, a portion of it, but you have these other bills. The food shortages, the rationing, all this, just like right before World War II, is going to make people so desperate, so hungry, so tired and cold. Come winter, it is going to get cold again. That all young people will join the military, go and fight World War III against people they've been brainwashed to hate, just to have 3 squares a day, just to have a roof over their and their families' heads again. See, history is repeating itself. Now, during World War II, jobs returned. Food was everywhere. There was little rations. I can remember my late mother used to tell me about a little red ration that was for shoes. It was about the size of a dime. It was about that thick. And there was one for clothing, one for food items. Each item had its own ration. There was one for gas. And once you used your week's ration, that was it. That was what you had. The upside was people walked a lot. Things like sugars, fats, those things were heavily rationed. It would take 4 rations to get a pound of bacon when it only took 1 ration to get 2 pounds of chicken. I'm just giving you a comparison. People were healthier at the end of World War II in England and America because they had been growing their own food. They've been canning their own food. They've been hunting their own protein. People lived a better quality of life, I would say. Now, of course, when my mom passed away, she had an abundance of shoes that I had no idea this woman had. Every color, every make, every purpose for shoes. Oh my God. I honestly did not know she had so many shoes or clothes, because she grew up with that. So did my dad. He always told me, you buy something for today and you buy something for tomorrow. 2 plus 2 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is nothing, was the thing he used to tell me. I wish I had listened. I really do. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of links so you can go and look for yourselves. Because we are under the surface of this COVID-19. We are also going into an economic depression. And we're being pushed into it on the side. Now you need to ask yourself, how can I bank? How can I add to my stuff? It's not that hard, really. When you buy 4 cans of tuna, buy 2 cans and put them back. Now do this as your finances allow, okay? If you eat rice and beans a lot, get what you need for a week and then grab what you need extra, if you can, and put them aside. My daughter's part Mexican. For those of you who are new subscribers, which means rice and beans are a huge part of her diet. So we have, instead of having 5 pounds of beans or rice, we get 10-pound bags when we can, because they take up less space. And she will use them over time. I can them. She'll use them dry. She prefers canned because half the work of cooking them is done. Mom's already done most of the work. So, these are the parallels we're looking at. Jobs are disappearing. Bills are stacking up. And the push for a war just goes on behind the scenes. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you find this informative. My God, I got close to a half hour the first time. Yeah. Leave the comments below if you have stories that you remember of your grandparents telling you about World War II, what it was like to live through it, what it was like to go through the 40s and the 50s. Please share them. I would love to read them. Share them. All the stories you can remember your grandparents telling you. I will see you guys tomorrow.